Hi there. So today I'm going to be making a nice rollerball pen for my brother Jim, and going to be making it out of some walnut. And so let's get started. So the first step is going to be to cut our blank. I've already got this piece of walnut here that I had used. It's actually kind of a piece of scrap from previous projects, and so we got these tubes that are going to go inside each half of the pen. So we're going to just line these up so that they're roughly the length that the whole piece is going to be. And I'm going to cut, give myself a little bit of wiggle room, just mark it there maybe, and then I'm going to cut that piece. I'm going to keep this solid at first so I can keep the grain together between the two pieces. Okay, so there's our cut blank. That's what we'll use to make the pen. Sorry, I'm not showing the actual cuts. I don't have a cameraman to operate the camera while I'm working. Okay, so next step, I'm actually going to take this piece and make it round because this thing is not quite square, and drilling it will be a lot easier if it's round. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this round. Got my little center finder here. Mark the centers on both ends. Okay, so for this I'm going to be using my roughing gouge. Even on these little projects, this stuff can come flying at you, so let's trim this down. You can tell when it's round because then the tool doesn't bounce when you put it on it while it's spinning. So, all right, that's nice and round. Next step, I'm gonna actually just take my pencil here and make a mark. Nice dark mark here, doesn't matter because that's all gonna get cut away anyway, but just right here so I can know where the two halves were joined before, so I can keep the grain together, keep the right ends lined up. All right. So next step is we're going to go ahead and cut this in half now. So there's our two pieces. Just look at the ends lined up. All right. Now the next step is to take these and drill holes through the center. I'm going to use the lathe for that. I'm going to hold it right in place with a chuck, and the drill bit will just go right through it. And there's two different sizes because this is a rollerball pen with a cap. So the cap is one size and the pen itself is another size. So this is going to spin and this is going to stay still, unlike a regular drill. Every once in a while you want to knock that sawdust out, because that'll keep it from cutting efficiently if you leave it in there. Easy peasy. So one hollow blank. Now I gotta do the second one. Here's the tube for the second part. And yeah, that's a match. Good. This drill bit is very sharp. It's cutting through it like butter. There we go. Okay. 2 hollow blanks. Next step is to take those brass tubes and glue them into the blanks. This will only take a couple seconds. Crazy glue. So I'm using this gel style. It's actually Gorilla Super Glue. It's basically crazy glue. Now, I want these, when I push these in with the glue, I'm going to push them into the side that's going to be the inside. So I want my marks, I want to push them into each of these sides because they're just going to be just inside there. That's going to be the closest match. So I push them into these sides. Before I do that, I want to scuff them up, the tubes, with some sandpaper. Make sure they get a good grip. Not sure how necessary this is anyway, but because the super glue is like ridiculous. Once it's on there, it's not going anywhere. Let's take our glue. Take the fat one first. A decent amount on here, spread it around a little bit. Quickly, make sure I got the right side. Stick that right in there, twist it a little bit, and that's about it. It's probably set already. So, there you go. Now let's do the other one. Yeah, I know this because on the very first pen that I did, it didn't work out too well because I set the tube in there and I didn't quite get it in all the way. And I left it for a couple of seconds and I came back and tried to push it in the rest of the way and it would not budge. So I wasted a tube and a blank that way. But hey, lesson learned, right? Okay, so now we've got our 2 tubes in the blanks on the marked sides, right up against the back there, and then we've got a little bit of room, I don't know if you can see, on the other end where the tube doesn't quite get to the end of the blank, but we're gonna fix that. You'll see in a second. So the next step is to take what we call a barrel trimmer, which is that little thingy right there. And this piece is going to insert into the blank, and these blade edges grind up against the side and let you get a nice flush surface with the edge of that brass tube. I think that looks flush. Yeah, okay. So now we'll flip it around, do the other side. For these minute operations, I like to just use the turning handle of the tailstock. So gives you a lot more precision. There you can kind of hear it when it starts to hit that brass too, because a little bit, it sings a little bit. So yeah, that's nice. Okay, let's do the other one. That one didn't need much at all. Cool. All right, that's looking pretty good. Okay. Okay, so next step, now that we have the barrels trimmed down, we got to stick these bad boys on, it's called a mandrel. It's a little tool that lets you turn these things down to a good size and keep them in place at the same time. So I don't think we're going to need hardly any of these spacers because we got a lot of material to work with. Now, you know what, let me get my other version of this pen that I finished for reference. Okay, so here's the one that I made previously. As you can see, when you take off the cap, the end near the point is actually a little fatter than the other end. So you'll see in a second why that matters here. So I'll put that together. We got our pieces that are supposed to stay together with the mark. All right, so the fatter end is the cap, and the thinner end is the body. Put those there. Now what I'm gonna do is take my these are called bushings. They're like little adapters that you stick on the mandrel, lets you cut these things down to a very exact size. And we got fat ones and we got two different size thinner ones. So we're gonna start with the fat one. And that's gonna go with our fat side, and then the connected side is gonna go on the other end, and that fits right into that brass tubing. It's a nice tight fit. Then we take our second fat one, put that in there as like a separator. That fits right in. Now the important part is, so let's double check. So the part, this is basically gonna be like this. All right, so this part is the cap, then we have this. So the next one I gotta put on is the thicker of the small ones. So that would be this one. So that, and then the smaller part's gonna go on there, and make sure we put our line onto there so that they don't have to line up right now, but that fits right on there. And then our final bushing goes on there, nice and solid. I don't need any spacers. I just put up my little, the nut that they give you on the end to tighten that, tighten it nice and tight. That's not going anywhere. This fits right into the headstock of the lathe. I need my live center. Toss that in there. Bring it up. This has a little notch in it. Fits right into that point. Secure it. Tighten it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be very tight. Ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to start off with my roughing gouge, bring this down fairly close down to the bushings. What the bushings do is when you can cut it right down to that metal. The bushing is the exact thickness that you want your barrel to be. So I'm going to get it down pretty low with the roughing gouge, and then I'll switch to a small spindle gouge for the more detailed stuff to get it down real nice.
That's pretty good for the bowl. Sorry, the roughing gouge. I'm gonna go to the spindle gouge now. That's that little guy. Something's wobbling there. Looks like I need to trim down a little bit here, just a hair. That's good. This needs a little more. That needs a little more. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. So now we're gonna get into the sanding. Start with I'll start with a 150. That's pretty nice. Now I'll go up to a 220. $320. $600. So now that we're fully sanded down, now it's time to finish these guys with a nice finish. My last couple of pens I've done with a CA finish. That's I believe it stands for cyanoacrylate glue. It's basically crazy glue, and you put a couple of different kinds on there and several coats, and then you can polish it with like a plastic polish. It comes out really nice. So, but first, before we do that, I actually need to clean this up with, I like to use a little alcohol. All right, so for the finishing process, I actually got this kit that comes with these extra little plastic bushings that makes it so that the when you apply the CA glue, it doesn't stick to your nice bushings and make like a piece of glue that sticks across this gap, and then it kind of snaps and makes it look bad. So just need to switch these bushings out. So you can see at the end of the process, these things are very thin. It's lined up. Tighten that. For this, I'm going to change speed again, go down to a slow speed again. Okay. After each coat, I spray with the activator. It makes it harden like instantly. 2. Three. 4. 5. We'll make it an even 6. See, it's looking pretty nice, right? Gives it a nice glassy finish. Very nice. Okay, so that's kind of like our base coat. So now we're done with the thin. Next we move on to the thick stuff. This is what they call pen finish. This is going to give us like a really nice substantial coating on the outside that we can then sand and polish down. It'll still give us a nice plastic mirror-like finish on the outside by the time we're done. This one, the process of applying it's slightly different. I'm going to drip it on here on the top and then use a plastic bag on my finger to smooth it out. Not sure why, but this is how they tell you to do it. I guess to maybe give it a thicker application. Same thing, activate. And similarly, we're going to do this for 5, 6 coats. So that was 1. Okay. This stuff away, so now we're done with the glue. So that's nice and shiny, but it's not smooth. So now we just need to sand this down a little bit. I have these series of kind of like micro mesh sanding strips. And sand that down. I have 320, 400, 600. Then we wet sand with an 800 grit sandpaper, and then we polish. So let's do it. Probably want to spend the most time at this lowest grit so we get all those ridges and everything out. Make it nice and smooth. And then the higher grits will only be for just removing scratches from the previous grits. You can kind of tell when you still have more work to go, because you have these lines here. That's regions where there's bumps that are still there. So once those lines go away, I'll know this is pretty even surface. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, it feels pretty even. Yeah, okay, let me work on the cap piece. pretty happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. All right, let's move up to the next grit. Now these ones shouldn't take as long. All right, so this one's 400. Let's see if I can reduce this chatter a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's really smooth, very nice. I like that a lot. All right, so now final bit of sanding will be with be a wet sanding. Literally just put water on sandpaper with an 800 grit, and then after that we get to polish. Okay, wet sandpaper. Oh yeah, nice. All right, now it's time for some polish. Before I do that, I think I'll just wipe it up a little bit. Clean paper towel. Just get rid of that front. So this is a, it's called Craftix 2020 Plasti Polish. Let that dry for a few seconds. Applying a little bit of pressure so you get some heat to cure the polish. Now I'll just repeat that process. It's looking pretty nice. I think one more polish coat should do it. I think that looks really nice. I think that looks really nice. All right, so now what we gotta do is take it off the mandrel and put it together. Okay, so you see here I've got a couple of pieces that I actually made myself. They just each have a concave surface to them, so I can use the lathe to just jam the pen together and it stays steady. So what I gotta do is just take, oh, also wanted to give these a quick zap with some sandpaper just to get off any glue or polish residue, just very lightly. Okay, ready to go. Now this I could actually, maybe I will do that. I'll do these in separate pieces. So basically take the cap off the pen. Right. Set that aside. Then assemble this using my little apparatus here. Oops. Make sure everything's lined up. Lock it down. Make sure this is loose. And then I just push using the turning handle of the lathe on the tailstock. And you can see it's going together nicely. Looks like we're going to have a good fit. Very nice and easy, slowly, because you don't want to crush it. I think that's good. Okay, so there's your finished pen piece. Okay. Next, I'll finish the cap. Same process. Getting misaligned a little bit here. Let me see. Almost there. Just a few more seconds. And I think that is it. There you go, there's your cap. Now we can just load in the ink. And there you go. One finished rollerball pen. Happy birthday, Jim.